You can watch Arsenal versus Burnley and Man City versus Crystal Palace on Now TV for just €10. So what's stopping you? Putting up more Christmas decorations? Your house already looks like Santa's grotto. A family party? Your Aunt Mary has seen you 4 times this week already. Don't let anything get in your way. To treat yourself to a Now TV Sky Sports Day Pass and watch the games that matter to you for just €10, search Now TV Football today. Content streamed by internet. Full terms at nowtv.com.
Hey, this is James Arnold Taylor, voice actor, the voice of
Yabba Dabba Doo, Fred Flintstone,
Johnny Test, who's 11 years old and totally awesome,
Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, Tidus from Final Fantasy X, oh yes, and of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It wouldn't be Coffee with Kenobi without yours truly. The Force is strong here indeed.
Previously on Coffee with Kenobi.
First, I want to take a moment to tell my best friend Ravi, who I saw the movie with, I'm sorry about your arm, because when Maul appeared, I literally beat the living crap out of his arm. Just beating his arm relentlessly. So I'm sorry, bro. I love you.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Hello and welcome to show number 129 of Coffee with Kenobi, your spoiler-free place for Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. You heard a little bit there at the beginning of what you can expect on this show. We have fun, we laugh, we talk about interesting things in the world of Star Wars, and we make sure that you know you're in a safe, positive place. I'm your host, Dan Z, drinking One Nation coffee out of a solo ILM crew mug. I've talked about this mug before, and it is a thing of beauty. So thank you so much for joining us. We're going to sit back and have some Star Wars conversation, hoping to make you think about the mythology of Star Wars in a whole new way, and maybe laugh a little bit in the process. On today's show, we've got a really cool intro. We've got Din from F-105 and Darth Taxus discussing if Han Solo grows or changes in Solo, a Star Wars story. We've talked about that quite a bit over the past month, and these two bring some interesting insights into the topic and help me think about what I thought of this story and the characters in a whole different kind of a way. And I hope, and I think that some of the things we talk about helps me at least understand more about Han Solo in Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back. So I'm curious to see what you think. It's a very fun conversation. We also share my interview segment audio from the Peoria Riverfront Museum. Of course, I did the Solo mythology presentation before the movie and dinner and a movie thing that I hosted the 25th of May. And I had to think about the dates there because they all kind of scramble together. We've seen this movie so many times. I know all of you have. And once you think about what you've been doing since Solo came out, the movie's been out almost a month, which is really, really crazy. Tom brings us the news, and we have a special guest joining us in addition to Tom to break down some of the interesting things going on in the news, including San Diego Comic-Con exclusives and what George Lucas may have had planned if he had done the sequel trilogy, which is very, very interesting stuff. And then in the coffee chat, my son this week turned 5, and as an early birthday present, I showed him The Empire Strikes Back for the very first time, and it was wonderful. So I hope you'll indulge me there. It was tremendous fun. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
This week, we unveiled the CWK Pour-Over logo that Corey Clubb designed. It's the name of the weekly Patreon exclusive show, and up till this point, we've just been calling it the Patreon exclusive show. So having an actual name and an identity and a logo gives the thing more of a feel, and I think it's wonderful. I really, really, of course I'm biased. Of course I want you to subscribe to our Patreon show. It helps out the show tremendously, and I'll talk about that more much later in the show. But these shows are really, really engaging. They're really, really fun. I'll talk later about what the next week's show is going to have to offer, and it's just really cool conversation. It's a little bit different too. Obviously, there's stuff going on in the world of Solo with box office and all kinds of things and different conversations out there. And on our show, we're positive. That doesn't mean we like everything, but it does mean we try to look at things from all different perspectives and try to make a positive spin on them, because I think we can do that. I think this is a safe place, a spoiler-free place, and we can do that. Now on CWK Pour-Over on the Patreon show, we do address those things in more detail. We still remain positive, but we just go more in depth into it. On the regular show on Coffee with Kenobi, For over 5 years, we've had positive conversation. It's a place where you can go and you can escape from all of the things that maybe you don't love or you'd rather just avoid. I mean, Star Wars at the end of the day should be a distraction from everything. It should just be entertainment. It should make you think. It should make you laugh. And that's what we hope to do here on this show. If you want to hear more of a deep dive into some of that other stuff, CWK Pour Over is one place where you can go for that. Either way, you're going to have some Star Wars conversation that's going to make you think about the world of Star Wars in a whole new way, because it's about story. It's about mythology. Mythology is the story of our culture, and I think Solo in Star Wars reflects that so beautifully. We're going to talk about that a lot at the beginning of the show with Din from F105 and Darth Taxus.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.
Joining us today for a cup of coffee is from the alternative rock band F105. We have Din.
Hey. So thanks for having me, and I do have a coffee again.
I am glad. And then also joining us is the co-host of Starships, Sabers, and and the MC of the Geek Supreme podcast, Darth Taxus.
Hold on, Dan. I could have sworn my agent told me it was just going to be me tonight.
Didn't you get all the green M&Ms you specified?
Yeah, okay, I'm a professional. Let's roll with this, okay?
Okay, good.
Hey, nice to be here. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited. So I know you're going to Celebration.
I don't have tickets, but I might have a way to get tickets. I missed out. I'm currently planning my first European tour. So my finances really are kind of tied in that insanity. And I was just giving myself some time to make sure that my budget was on for Europe. And then I was going to get the Celebration tickets, but they just went so fast.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, I honestly remember for Orlando tickets, the full weekend passes, they went in about 9 months. These went in about 2.5 days.
Yeah. Oh,
it's insane.
I'm happy to announce that I will be attending along with the Lady Taxus. So
I'm glad to hear that. I thought you might be. That's good. That's good news.
Mm-hmm. I love Chicago.
Yeah, it's a sweet home.
I will get there one way or the other. There are people who are willing to offer me tickets that have extra if I need. So yeah, I'm gonna get there. I plan on doing at least a couple of shows. One at Celebration and hopefully then a club show.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be very cool. It's going to be quite an event, and it's even though it seems far away, it's really going to get here quickly. But we're going to start the show talking about Solo, and how can we not talk about Solo? Solo, a Star Wars story. Whatever you're reading or not reading, all I know is what I felt when I saw the movie and what my friends have told me and what I've seen online with people. People love this movie. It's very, very fun. It's very, very engaging. It moves at a rapid pace, and the characters are just phenomenal. So speaking of characters, what we're going to be doing for the next couple of weeks is we're going to be taking one character at a time per show, and we're going to break them down and look at them a little more closely. So naturally, because we're talking about Solo, a Star Wars story, we're going to start the dissection with Han Solo. Now, this is not new. We've been talking about this for the past couple of weeks on various different review shows on our Patreon show. But I wanted to talk to Din and Taxus about what they think of my theory, or just their opinion in general, of does this character of Han Solo change at the end of the story. Now, I want to be clear what that actually means from the perspective of a literary teacher. A character that changes or grows means that at the end of the story, at the end of the book, at the end of the film, they are different. They're either smarter, or they are braver, or they are less arrogant, or they have a new perspective on life. It doesn't mean that suddenly they have a new weapon, or that they have a new haircut, or something superficial. This is like an actual change that forever encompasses them in a different way. They're different people at the end of the story than they are at the beginning. Forever. That is what true change means. And I could give you a million different examples. But let's talk about in this movie. And then why don't you start us off? What do you think about does Solo change at the end of this film?
I think that Lucasfilm and Disney put the cart before the horse a little, with sort of assuming that the audience would be up for a trilogy of Solo movies, because Kathleen Kennedy had recently said that, or Aaron Reich at least said that he had signed on for 3 films. So that tells me that likely they have a rough, just a rough outline of the arc to get Han to A New Hope, like 3 movies to get him there. So to make him sort of more let down and more cynical by the end of the 3 movies. And that's, in a business perspective, they're just expecting Solo to do really well and to make 2 sequels. Which I always felt was a little... I didn't want the Solo movie until I saw it and realized how much I loved it. But it's still, to me, a little questionable to expect the Star Wars audience, which had always loved and sort of thrived off of waiting a long time to get their content, to expect the whole demographic to suddenly change and be like the Marvel audience, just to eat up as much as possible, as fast as possible. So the arc that I'd like to see now would be a trilogy, not in the sense of 3 Solo movies, but Solo 1, Solo 2, and then A New Hope to actually be the concluding arc. You know what I mean? So
I do.
This movie sort of sets up the fact that he is kind of a good guy, but then just one movie to show him becoming the cynical and jaded guy, and then that would then allow A New Hope to be the sort of end of the trilogy of that story.
So is it fair to say that basically you're saying, no, he doesn't change, but that's because the story is just starting?
Essentially, although I do think he changes in subtle ways, the main being he can't let go of Kira at the beginning of the film, but it seems like he can let go of her by the end and realize that what he has is family or a tribe, and that's mainly in Chewie. Because that's a theme when they're around the campfire, and I forget the name, but Han is Rio. Han is interpreting Chewie, and he says, "I'm not sure if he said family or tribe," and then Beckett says, "What's the difference?" And I feel like that's actually the theme of the movie.
That's an important, yeah.
You're right.
It's subtle though.
Chewie and Han are like the marmalade of their family. They're holding each other together like that. You know what I mean?
It's a really sticky observation.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that he changes?
Dan, I agree with you 100%. He does not change. And I think that, yes, there is going to be hopefully some setup because, okay, let's look at Kira, okay? Kira is kind of his first love, right? And
Sure.
You look at that first love through a certain tint in your visor, and you don't see that maybe she's quite moved on for whatever her own reasons are. And I don't know. I stated on our
survival,
show.
I think.
Yeah, survival. And that's a powerful motivator, right? It'll make you do things that you didn't think you would. Han acted out of an interest just to take care of her, And I think at the end of the movie, he still has that, hey, I can still save her at some point, it does make for an interesting story. I don't think he really changed. I think that he was willing to do whatever it took to accomplish his goals, which is why when he draws down on Beckett at the end, it didn't surprise me. It was like, I don't know, he just needed to have Beckett let off some steam and, just hit the spot. So, I mean, it was one of those things where I just think that he didn't change at all because he was truly like that. And his motivation was not one out of survival like Kira's is, but because of Kira. So, I mean, they kind of cut it off fast. So, like I said, some of this is kind of my headcanon, but sure. I don't know.
But no, it's totally logical. And I mean, my feelings are still the same. I think this isn't necessarily, again, a knock or a pejorative, but I think to say that he changes, that he's a different person at the end of this film than he is at the beginning, to me, I can't honestly say that's the case, because at the beginning of the film, he's a survivor. He's charming. He's affable. He's a bit arrogant. He takes risks that aren't always the smart thing to do. but he takes them anyway. He's out for himself, but he's also willing to stick his neck out for somebody he cares about. He does with Kira when he's 19 years old. He does it with Chewie. He does it throughout the whole film. And then with Enfys Nest, when that thing happens and she says, "You're the good guy," that again, that's my favorite line. Yes. But he's not. He's always the good guy. I mean, he's still good, even though he's not necessarily proactive in helping people because he doesn't even realize what's going on. He's very self-centered. At the end, he does do something that is selfless, and he risks his life, and that's nice. That's not really a change in dynamic. That he's not suddenly different.
Right.
I mean, let's go ahead.
It's always been one of my core themes to Star Wars is that the people are who the people are. And, Han wouldn't do what he does if he wasn't deep down inside a good dude, a good guy who cares, And I'm glad that they're not muddling his character type in this movie with a bunch of gray area. You know what I mean? He does what's right,
Yeah.
Or no matter what the situation, he's doing what's right. So, yeah.
The point is that there is zero indication to show that this is why he's cynical. Oh, this is why he only is looking out for himself. I mean, that's there from the moment the film starts. There's no new revelation. Oh, that's why he's jaded. He doesn't seem jaded at the end of the film, even when he has to kill his mentor. It's a survival thing. I mean, yeah, he's kind of a street tough, and that's true. If you want to look at it, does Han Solo change? Okay, in A New Hope, he does change. He puts aside this idea of, I need money, I need to get this bounty off my head. But he puts it off and he comes back and he saves Luke and he goes and he helps the rebellion. He sticks his neck out for a cause that helps other people besides himself. That's change. That doesn't happen. So The Empire Strikes Back is even stronger and it takes his entire arc. At the end of this film, and a little bit at the beginning, but at the end, he's not running anymore. Like he runs, of course, from Hoth. He runs out to save Luke. He's running from the Empire. Those are all survival things, yes, but he's still running towards something. He keeps telling, I'm going to leave. I got to go take care of this bounty on my head, blah, blah. At the end of the movie, instead of running from Vader, instead of running from the Carbon Freeze, because he's gotten out of worse jams, let's be honest, he stays still. In fact, they make it so powerful, he actually freezes. He completely doesn't move and is incapable of moving, and it's by his choice. That's powerful, and that kind of gets undone throughout his arc and in the books afterwards, but I think that is okay. I think that's realistic. There are many lessons that you and I and Din, all three of us, have learned in our lives that sometimes we take slides back and we have to learn them again in a different way. To me, that's humanity and that's realism. That's change. Solo, Star Wars Story, there is no change.
No, there isn't. And you know what? I'm good with that. I don't want that. When I started in on this, I just wanted to see an exciting, fun, swashbuckling, blaster shooting Star Wars movie, And to me, like, if I had this heavy, like, kind of character development with Solo, I wouldn't be able to sit back and just enjoy everything that was unfolding before me,
See, there's the rub, to borrow from one of the most evolved character in the history of literature, Hamlet. And now, just to change doesn't necessarily mean that that it has to be deep or profound. It just means you have evolved. That's just character storytelling 101. I think that's why it's just a bit jarring for me, because it doesn't have to be Hamlet, doesn't have to be Schindler's List, but it does have to, progress the character. And he doesn't progress. This is purely, you've got buy-in already. You know who Han Solo is. You know who Chewbacca is. You know who the Falcon is. You know who Lando is. We're just going to give you some fun. This was like an episode of a TV show. It was just like the first episode of the first season. It wasn't like season 1, episode 1 and season 1, episode 22, where at the end of the series or the season, he's different. There's none of that. I don't know. That's just, I expect more from the Kazans, because these two, especially Lawrence Kazan, my goodness. They know characters so well. And again, it's not that I'm coming down on it, but from a storytelling perspective, it's a major no-no. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, again, I really am convinced that this is the horse before the cart thing. I really think that they assumed they'd be making another Solo movie, and the Kasdans were probably told, keep this part of the arc for Solo 2 and 3. On a personal level, I did feel like, I have to be honest, that intellectually, I agree with where you're coming from and can see how you would feel that. On a personal level, I really did feel the arc of a young man, and I think this was really personal for me because it relates to sort of who I was in my early 20s. And, before the show started, we were talking about my ex-girlfriend who had invited me to the U2 concert, Zoo TV. But I'm thinking of her and how that relationship didn't work out. And when I started college, I remember a really strong friendship formed with me and my friend Adam, who is also, strangely enough, he's really tall and really, really, really sort of kind. But, he also had a really, really strong side. But he once even said, I know who the Chewie is in this relationship. And I just remember letting go of high school and my girlfriend and sort of going into college in that phase of my life. And I had this one great friend who I spent years with. We were both sort of in college together in two different schools. And so I actually immediately thought of that at the end of the movie when Han watched Kira go in the yacht and he was standing there with Chewie. And I felt really moved by that. And that sort of, I guess I'll use the word bromance. I was touched by it. It was like, okay, I've lost my love. I've lost what formerly drove my whole purpose of being. But this life with this Chewie is something I can trust, and that's good enough. And I was touched by that. So I wasn't expecting.
Sure, no, it's good enough. But the example I used before is Harry Potter, like book 1 versus book 7. That's not, obviously at the end of book 1, that's not the end of the story. There's a long way to go. There's a lot of Hogwarts to go to. But at the end of the book, he's a little bit different. He's more aware that he actually has a purpose. He's not just a little kid who lives under a cupboard and under the stairs. And he is sort of treated like a servant or very much a less than. He knows that there's more to him than that, or he hopes there is, but he doesn't see it. And then he sees that there's more to the world and there's more out there, and that there are people that will try to hold you back. And he learns that he has purpose, right? But that's far from the end of his story. And then we get to the end of book 7. My goodness. I mean, there's dramatic changes in that. And, this is just my personal opinion, just based on the literary background that I have as far as. Yeah.
I have a question for you guys that makes me think.
Yeah.
Because, Dan, I know you really love The Dark Knight Return.
The
Dark Knight, and I know you compared The Last Jedi very early on to that, and I agree in essence. What if, say we looked at Solo as part 1, and hypothetically, A New Hope is part 3. That's where he turns around and he comes back. What if, following the, if Disney has a formula here where they start off with a safer movie and then they follow up with a really challenging one? What if they followed this movie up with a sort of Solo Part 2 Dark Knight type movie where he battled with his maybe what you said earlier about him shooting Beckett? What if that became an internal struggle that was explored in the next movie where he felt
that'd be great.
Remorse, or where he felt he had to sort of, where that turned him a little darker, made it more easy for him to do darker things? What about that type of a movie next?
I think that would be neat, but then I would say, well, why didn't you put some sort of hint to that at the end of the first movie instead of this rah, let's get in the Falcon and fly away? I guess maybe I should have phrased it this way. This is what you need to do. You need to have, if I were making this movie, and I'm not a Kasdan, obviously, I mean, they're Hollywood royalty, they would either have a moment where you can clearly see he views the world differently because Kira has left him, and he gets the sense that she's not who he thought she was, and that makes him have a hard time trusting. Or the Beckett thing really framed him. I mean, they had a great opportunity when he said, "Oh, don't look at me like that, kid." And later it's like, "No, you know what? I'm really not looking at you like that. It was an act, and I'm way ahead of you, and you're no big deal." Boom. Over. It's just not good storytelling.
Well, let me ask you this, Dan. Do you think at the beginning of the movie he would have shot Beckett?
Yeah, that's what Jeff McGee said. I mean, I think if Beckett was going to kill him, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that would indicate change, though. That's just a survival thing.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some subtle context in there where he's seeing exactly the kind of woman Kira has grown up to be.
I don't think that's the problem. Thank you for helping me realize that. He doesn't see it. Okay. That's why he doesn't change. He doesn't see it.
See, and I think that's not a bad thing, because I think that, he's still got that starry look in his eyes, that hope and, hope, hope. Oh, Star Wars, right? So, he's, and he's like thinking to himself, he doesn't know who she's dealing with, right? I'm more into math than English, Dan.
No. It's who, yeah.
Thank you so much. He doesn't know exactly the depths she is in. We, as the audience, don't know what she's been through, what she's gone through in 3 short years. Now, conversely, we don't know what he's gone through. I mean, she's
more evolved as a character than he is.
He is. He's still a kid. He's a kid in soldier's clothing when we see him,
Yeah, that's true.
And he is not a soldier. In his head, he's not said, I'm here to be an Imperial soldier. It was a means to an end, And what was the end? Getting to her. That first love, that first, hit. And you think to yourself that you're supposed to be together. And hey, guess what? You might not. She, I feel like, from what I've seen, has kind of reconciled in her head that she's okay because she drives off with a star yacht. It's like, see you at the party. Time to chill later, And he's left there kind of like, oh, you, Kira, I'm going to find you, though. But guess what? Like you were saying, he's got his buddy now with him, right? They got a ship. They're taking the galaxy, right? There's always opportunity for him. So to me, like the character, it's a youthful exuberance. And I feel like that youthful exuberance maintained itself through the movie,
Exactly.
But that is to say, I really hope, and Jay Krebs, one of my co-hosts on Starship Sabers and Scoundrels, took a little umbrage with this, or at least said, hey, whoa, when I said, I hope that we see Kira reach her hand into his chest, rip out his still beating heart, and stomp on in front of his face.
I kind of expected that to happen in the movie, to be honest.
Well, right.
Not as Temple of Doom as that, but...
Oh, no, I mean, Kaliba will not rule this world, but the thing is, I think that if we get another Solo movie, we're going to see that moment, but Han will probably never realize why she does it.
Which is fine. Maybe it's Leia is the one that has to kind of help him connect all those synapses in his brain there. And again, he's going to change later, or he's not, or whatever, and that's all good. I just think for just storytelling 101, the character has to undergo some sort of a change. Otherwise, you're not wrapping up the thread. That's one of my biggest beefs with the Hunger Games books, is that in these stories, no arcs are wrapped up, no characters really change or grow. And that, to me, that's just a problem.
Interesting.
I have to say, I do agree with you in essence, Dan. Mm-hmm. So I guess this podcast is over.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Be sure to tip your waitress.
Because I do feel that at the end, and I just really think that it's because they were leaving that for the second movie, and I think that is there. I mean, I can't argue that it's not there. I could just argue that he changes a bit in terms of what his reason for being is by the end. And that's, his reason was a girl, and now his reason is a friend. And yeah. And I'm also trying to think of what part 2 might be called, and if the word whom could be used. So, for whom the Death Star alarm tolls.
Oh, I like that. Very, very James Hetfield of you.
Hey, you stick to writing songs. I'll stick to the bad jokes, okay, Dan?
Okay, all right. But he could have an Ernest Hemingway type, character arc in the second one. All right.
Oh, okay. Man, do I wish. Yeah, that's the thing. I think I just need to do maybe a little more background so I can flesh out a little bit more for people. And it seems like we're all on the same page with this. And that's really, really a cool thing. So, by the way, who versus whom? You want to know the difference? When you say whom, you're using it to refer to the object.
The bell or the Death Star alarm.
Yeah, here's how you can do it. If you can replace the word with he or she, you use who. If you replace the word with him or her, you use whom.
Yes.
There you go. You just got grammared.
Right. So let me ask you this one more thing, Dan. Okay,
Please,
do you think, even though the character of Solo, okay, he maintains some sort of consistency through this, do you think the change of the other characters around him in the story was enough to offset a lack of change? For example, let's take Chewbacca. Okay, he runs into Chewbacca in a circumstance that none of us expected to find him in. He basically rescues him and tells him, "Come with me if you want to live," and Chewbacca does, right?
Yeah.
And then, now they've got some sort of bond. Okay. Chewbacca changed. Okay. At some point we see Lando, he's got this character L3, right? Despite what you think of her. And she, of course, meets her demise. And boy, I really wish, I was kind of hoping with all the droids, we would have seen Chopper there, because it would have been great if they could have gotten to the Chopper with him, on the Millennium Falcon. But I don't know. That's just kind of my head. Yeah, it would have been fun just to kind of in the background. I was trying to think if that would have fit in the timeline somehow, but it didn't work. So do you think that those characters changing was enough to allow you? I mean,
if it was called The Gang of Solo Rides Again, sure, but it's called Solo.
What if it kind of was? I mean, this was kind of a space western in itself.
Well, I mean, I did argue on the Patreon show that maybe the name Solo means all of these characters are very much loners, and it's really not Han Solo's story so much as it's everybody's story. I mean, I could see that.
Gosh, I need to contribute to that so I can listen to that now.
Well, I won't be sad about that, but but I don't know. I just think this is something that I hope that we continue to have dialogue on. And there's one thing that I know about Star Wars and Star Wars fans. The most important thing is when I talk to all of you and I hear from a Coffee with Kenobi family members and Star Wars fans, I think about things differently. And that to me is progress. Like the measure of success, if you want to be a successful person, no matter what genre or area or field you want to be successful in, personally, professionally, what have you, the way to be successful is to progress, to learn, to grow, to get stronger, to get smarter, to understand things from a different perspective. That's one of the reasons why Mark Twain said travel is fatal to bigotry and ignorance and racism, because you have to see things differently. And that's why I think these conversations are important. And that's why my heart hurts when I see people having arguments online and not being open to other points of view. Like, and this is the thing that I think maybe this is because I'm a little bit older and I just see things differently, and I've just lived a very long experienced life. But here's what I know. If I like a movie, I legitimately don't care if everyone likes it or everyone hates it. Like, I don't need that affirmation for me to enjoy something. And I think if we could get to that place, I feel like there would eliminate half of the consternation that's out there.
Yeah, that's very good sentiment. Dan, I might also pose that the opposite of that success from progress could be called Congress, right?
Yeah, Twain has a lot of stuff on that too. What do you think? Is that too naive of me, or is that just...
No, that's joy. I mean, I've had countless conversations with friends that can't stand The Last Jedi, and I have. It has actually made me grow in the exact way you just said you hoped it would, Dan. I've learned that you have to value listening to other people's opinions and why they might not like it. Actually, my doctor who's is just really brilliant in terms of Western philosophy and biology and stuff, and he said that there's a part of our brain that either responds with a positive emotion to art or a negative or doesn't respond. And there is actually no intellectual argument you can pose to someone to have them feel differently about that work of art.
Yeah.
Because it's so entrenched in this one biological section of your brain. And then my doctor said to me, that's why so much art is needed. Because there's however many billions of people on the planet, and those needs have to be filled. And you have to keep making more and more and more and more to fill all those needs.
That's
and
beautiful.
essentially,
yeah. Solo and The Last Jedi are about the same as lightning and a lightning bug. I mean, that's how similar they are. They're different things. They're different things.
Right.
And this movie is fun and engaging and charming. And we've talked a lot about the criticism of, does the character change or not? And again, criticism is not a negative thing. It's okay to disagree, not okay to be disagreeable. Differences of opinion are what make the world go around. And if not for differences of opinion, we wouldn't have a lot of the major breakthroughs in science and philosophy and medicine and spirituality and in friendship. And that's a great thing. So we've kind of gone all over the place, but I'm really really appreciate both of your perspectives and your spins on this.
Yeah. I gotta say, Dan, your doctor sounds really impressive.
Yeah, he's really cool.
Sounds like he has a lot of patience.
I knew by the candor of your voice.
Well, I am leaving the bad jokes to you.
Thank you. I'll be here all podcast. Thank you.
You will. You will. And we're better for it. So let's go ahead and take our break. This was a really, really long intro, but a wonderful intro. Very, 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 very pleased with that. So thank you, guys. We're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to share the audio from my presentation from the Peoria Riverfront Museum on the mythology of Han Solo. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Coffee with Kenobi. Oh, pass the cream, would you?
Before we continue with the show, I'd love to thank our CWK Patreon contributors, Ben Elkington, Rebecca Raven, Terry Lee, Dennis Keithley, Lieutenant Law, Aaron Harris, Chris Savarka, Angela Sauce, Mediocre Jedi, Chris Metz, LJ Souter, Thea Selby, Jeff Ellis, Daz Davies, Tyler Wiggins, Christian Dale, Jason Hall, Brian McKinney, Connie Shee, Mike Audette, Jared Cantor, BJ Smith, Eric Struthers, Nick Tico, and Mark Suter. Everyone that I mentioned is a part of the CWK Patreon contributor family at the $5 or more a month level, and that is the level where you have access to our CWK exclusive Patreon show, CWK Pour Over, hosted by myself, Tom Gross, and Corey Clubb, where we dive into so many different geek topics. We talk about Solo. We address some of the topics, some of the more controversial topics on that show, because again, we want the show to be the regular Coffee with Kenobi to be more of a place for an escape. Whereas on the Pour Over, we just literally and figuratively dive right into it, as well as superhero stuff. We review movies that aren't Star Wars related, TV shows, comics, things like that, and they're so much fun. In fact, the other night, I've never laughed as hard as I have as when I recorded the most recent show that you're going to hear on this Sunday coming up. It was almost embarrassing how hard I laughed, but I just left it in there because it's more authentic. And I think authentic positivity is what Coffee with Kenobi brings, and I think you are a big reason for that. This show that we have that is out there now, it's the most current one. I believe we have 11 of them out there for you to listen to, 10 or 11, because you have access to all of them through the back catalog if you're a member of $5 or more a month. This show, we talked about different fictional characters that inspire us, as well as non-fictional characters, which are, people that inspire us. And then we talk about 4 people that we most want to have dinner with. That could be people living or dead that we think would be the most interesting or fascinating. And it really took the conversation in really different ways, so I encourage you to check that out. But that's not the only thing that Patreon has for you on Coffee with Kenobi. We have t-shirts and mugs you have access to. There's a phone case. You can do a thing where you contribute a certain level and you can host a show with me for an entire month, which would be 4 shows. And then for $1 or more a month, you have access to CWK Lens, which is like Snapchat or Instastory, where I talk to you about behind-the-scenes things, show you extra video of my travels for Star Wars. And none of those travels happen, by the way, without your support of CWK and Patreon. So if you have more questions on this, please email me or check out Coffee with Kenobi on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Coffee with Kenobi, or on our website. Thank you so very much. One Nation Coffee is the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi. You have 4 lifelong friends that have this dream that has grown to some of the best, most amazing coffee you will ever have. It smells amazing and tastes even better. And I can tell you that, honestly, one of the perks of working with One Nation Coffee and Philip and the great guys over there is that they will mail me coffee once a month. And oh my goodness, it's probably the best mail day of the month because it makes the mailbox smell amazing. And I know I'm going to have that awesome coffee wafting through the room every morning. It's wonderful. So check out www.onenationcoffee.com to get your morning started off the right way.
Who's host of the fabulously popular podcast. Does anybody listen to Coffee and Kenobi in the house? And also a writer for StarWars.com. And just recently got to attend the premiere of this movie in Hollywood. So, to share some of his insights with us for Han Solo and this film, let's all welcome Dan. Thank you so much for coming and speaking to me.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Peoria Riverfront Museum, for having me. I really appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Hello. Oh, really? We're going to see a new Star Wars movie, and that's all you got? Hello, everybody. Hello. Much better. My name is Dan Zer. I'm the host and co-creator of Coffee with Kenobi. I also write for StarWars.com and IGN. And I'm very, very excited to talk to you a little bit today about the mythology of Star Wars. Now, yes, I did go to the premiere, and I will talk about that. I will not say a thing about this movie. I'm going to tell you if I like the movie, nothing. So do know it, no spoilers. That is the motto of Coffee with Kenobi. Anyway, so let's get started. Who here likes Han Solo more than Luke Skywalker? Yeah, well, Luke's great too, but there's definitely a different type of archetype. Han Solo is more of the reluctant hero, right? I mean, think about when you see Han Solo for the first time. He's wearing a white shirt, but over it is a black vest, right? So that's kind of showing a dichotomy. He's more good, he's not bad, but he's a little bit conflicted. There's a lot of symbolism with him. There's a lot of symbolism with all of Star Wars. That's a shameless plug of me at Lucasfilm, by the way. So, where this all started for Harrison Ford, for Han Solo, is American Graffiti. I'm assuming you've heard of American Graffiti. Yes. So, American Graffiti was George Lucas's second film. His first one was THX 1138, kind of a real art housey film, and he liked it, but it wasn't really necessarily well received. So he needed to make some money. He had this idea for American Graffiti, and he loved automobiles. He loved racing. In fact, he, at one point in his life, was in such a bad car accident during a race, he decided, I can't race anymore. I think I'm going to make movies. So ironically, it led to this. Now, over here on the right is, of course, Harrison Ford. This was his first major film. He plays kind of a wild card, rogue, smuggler type, and maybe you've heard the type before. And he loved it, and this movie is considered one of the top movies of all time. Now, when this movie was finished, this didn't really propel his acting career, so he went back to what he did for his day job. They had a second child on the way, and he went back to being a carpenter. Well, one day, a gentleman by the name, oh, by the way, before we get to that, Ron Howard, you may have heard of him too. He was 18 years old in American Graffiti. So that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because when you think about this, he directed Solo, A Star Wars Story. So see, it's all connected in a great circle of, wait, that's another franchise. It's still Disney. So Harrison Ford, he was doing some carpentry work, and a producer said to George Lucas, hey, this guy, he's a pretty good actor. Why don't we have him try out for the role of Han Solo? Christopher Walken read for Han Solo, as did Kurt Russell, but it just didn't fit for George. So he said, well, I know Harrison's a good actor. I had him in American Graffiti, but I don't really want to have, him as my De Niro. I want to try other roles. I want to try new characters, new actors for these characters. But also when he read for it, he was great. And he's one of the most famous actors of all time. Now, the gentleman over here is Billy D. Williams. He is, of course, the actor who plays Lando Calrissian. Now, here's some older shots. It's amazing when you Google these two, how many pictures you see. That's Harrison, late 70s, early 80s, and that's Billy D. Williams. Harrison Ford, Billy D. Williams, if you don't know, he plays Lando Calrissian, and he has been known since The Empire Strikes Back in 1980, and most of you already know this, as one of Han's oldest friends, but they have a bit of a shady past. Now, Billy D. Williams was as cool as the other side of the pillow, extremely popular, beloved actor in the late 70s. He was most famously in Lady Sings the Blues with Diana Ross, and he's just the epitome of cool. So when George wanted to cast somebody for Lando Calrissian, Billy D. was the clear choice. Now, fast forward to 2018. This gentleman over here, his name is pronounced Alden Ehrenreich. He is the person to take on the role of Han Solo. This movie, if you're not aware of it, takes place before A New Hope, before the original 1977 Star Wars. So he is the actor who's going to take on the mantle of Han Solo. Most famous, by the way, he was in the movie, the Coen Brothers film called Hail Caesar, and he stole the show. And that was one of the roles that he did that showed Lucasfilm that he is the guy that they want for Han Solo. Han Solo, of course, and again, this is talk about, shoot fish in a barrel. You all know this already. Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Han Solo goes through quite a bit to get to where he is at the end of Return of the Jedi. Of course, he's in The Force Awakens. But he's a very beloved character. We know this. That's why you're here right now. We know that already. Did you also know, by the way, that besides these films, there's this long... Did you know, by the way, quick thought, today, you know why today is a big deal for Star Wars?
May 25th.
Yeah, why is that a big deal?
Where it came out.
41 years ago today, the original Star Wars premiered. Wow. Amazing. So besides these movies, again, we've got this chronology of comic books, of novels. These three are considered the best of the expanded or Legends library of Star Wars. They're not in the canon. Now, canon, for those of you who aren't aware, canon is a term that means law. It's actually a Christian word. It means the law. So if something is in the Star Wars canon, it's considered part of the actual universe. So creators who come after the fact and have to tell these stories, they're beholden to the canon. This was not in the canon. This is from April of 79 to August of 80. It takes place right before the original A New Hope. It just shows Han and Chewie just kind of going on all these adventures. And you can tell by the covers they're definitely very unique plots, but they're very, very beloved. And they're actually available. The three of them are bound into one collection. And they're really, 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 really fun, really well received. Lando, of course, every picture you Google of Lando has him with a cape. To no one's surprise. Oh, Exhibit A, there you go. So Lando Calrissian was, of course, from The Empire Strikes Back in 1980, as well as Return of the Jedi in 1983. Famously, very famously, at the end of The Empire Strikes Back, he betrays Han Solo and leads to Han being frozen in carbonite and taken away by Jabba the Hutt. Now, for those of you who were not born when this movie came out, which sounds crazy to me, but it is a thing, we had to wait 3 years to find out what happened. So keep in mind that for the 3 years between 80 and 83, and by the way, still to this day, whenever Billy D. Williams is approached, people always say to him, "Why did you betray Han Solo?" He's like, "Hey, that was a character I played. I didn't, Darth Vader, he's scary." So Lando and Han have this really interesting history. He also has a series of novels, not necessarily as popular as the Brian Daley solo novels, but still very, very similar vein. And this is before Han Solo wins the Falcon from Lando, which that's been sort of out there since 1980, so I'm not spoiling anything there. You don't really know how, or when, or why. I wonder if we ever will find out. So Marvel Comics, the top one on the right and over here, these are from the more current Marvel Comics. Back in 2015, Marvel said, hey, since Disney bought Lucasfilm and Disney also owns Marvel, why don't we make more money and make more Star Wars comic books and make them in the canon? And they certainly have. So Han has had a number of adventures in the comic books. The outer ones are from the late 70s, early 80s, the Howard Chaykin Star Wars concept. And these are different novelizations or adaptations of the film. Over here on the right, you'll see a green bunny. It's not a sentence I've said too much in my life. But that bunny is named Jackson. He's actually a carnivorous bunny. And he's very, very popular amongst a subsect of Star Wars fans. But this was the kind of stuff that they were putting out because Lucas said, you know what, you can't really make anything that's significant to these movies, so I ultimately have final approval, but you can just go crazy. Just do whatever, unless I tell you no. So in other words, Yoda can't be on roller skates or whatever, because I have certain guidelines, but I'm not going to tell you what they are. You just have to not do it the wrong way or I'll cancel it. So it was very, very kind of hard to follow, but people did the best they could, and then we got carnivorous green bunnies. Okay? Now with the new canon, that's a lot different in the story. Speaking of stories, I was very, very, very fortunate. About, the beginning of May, I got an email from Walt Disney World, and it said, you were invited to the Solo red carpet premiere. Now, I mean, you can ask my wife, who's here in attendance. Isn't she lucky to be married and you have to be dragged to all this stuff all the time? Sorry, hon. Thank you for being such a trooper. When I got this email, my heart was just pounding on my chest because I've been wanting to do something like this all my life. I know you all have, of course. So 2 weeks later, we went. I took my son, and we went to the world carpet premiere in Hollywood, California. You see up there, they built, on Hollywood and Highland, they built a replica of the Falcon. I don't know what the scale was to the actual Falcon in the films, but it was incredible just being there. I got there early in the morning, and I had my Star Wars backpack and a Star Wars hat, Lucasfilm hat, and the guy at the front desk said, hey, I'm going to guess I know why you're here. Let me show you something. So he takes out his phone, and he shows me the Millennium Falcon that they're building right outside the hotel. And so my son had been up, he had 30 minutes of sleep the night before because he was very excited to go to this. So he said, I'm going to go lay down. I said, that's fine. You probably should. I'm going to go watch the Millennium Falcon being built. That's sentence ever, right? So I go out there. I see it. Hours later, we get to go, and we go to the world premiere. And it was phenomenal. Just being in that atmosphere was electric. Here's some more shots of that. What you do is, as you go around kind of the corner over here on the left, they have this huge place where you check in. They've got, everybody's letters of the alphabet. You check in, they give you a badge. Boom, you're on the red carpet. If you go to the left, you're in the movie, and you're a big deal. If you go to the right, you're me, and it's like this narrow to walk through. But who cares, because you're the red carpet, and you walk through, and you're able to just kind of circulate, and you're able to see all these people. So Paul Bettany walks by, who's in this film. He's the Vision in Avengers. He plays a villain called Dryden Voss in this film. I met Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney World. I met Eunice Suetamo, who's Chewbacca. I got to see a lot because they're just walking by, and they're excited. They actually wanted to talk to me, or anybody who was there, because they want to know what you think about the movie. So it's really interesting. I would imagine 99% of the time they don't want you to come up and say, hey, guess what I thought about the movie? But this night, they actually did. Speaking of, so there's me with Eunice. He's the one on the left, because he's Chewbacca. And he was a very, very charming guy. I'd asked him what it was like to play with Han Solo, because he was in The Force Awakens, and he got to play Chewbacca with Harrison Ford. And I used to be in Solo with Alden Ehrenreich, so he's kind of got a unique legacy thing going. At the after party, they had all the costumes set up and these huge displays, and a lot of security around there because, as they said to me, don't try to take this. I really wasn't going to when it fit in my suitcase, but very cool. And then we went to the press junket, and that's how close I was to the actors, which was really cool. At the very end, I got to ask Ron Howard a question about what it means to create a character that is very much an ambiguous character, because let's face it, in this world we live in, good and evil, one of the reasons the original Star Wars is so appealing is because at the beginning, Luke Skywalker were all white. Princess Leia was all white, I'm sorry. Darth Vader is dressed in all black. It was very, very clear who's good and who's bad. But now the world we live in now, things are a lot more ambiguous. So I asked them, what kind of challenges is there to creating a new hero in an ambiguous world? Well, they talked a lot about the ideas and the challenges and how you can be able to tell a story and make commentary about the real world through the world of fiction, which I think is very appealing. They also had a replica of the interior of the Falcon, and so I got a couple of pictures there, including this one. I know, right? It's on our mantle at home above the fireplace. Next to the picture. Right. Well, actually, she doesn't know yet, but that's going to happen soon. So the way this worked out is they have this traveling exhibit of the Falcon, and I got in there, and you walk in and you give your phone to the professional photographer, and he said, I'm just going to take photos for about a minute or so, do whatever. So I'm first like, wow. And they raised the handle of the controls up to me because it was adjustable, because she was a lot taller than I am. And so I just smile, and then I reach up to grab the control for light speed, and then Chewie does the same thing. And then I went like this and laughed, and he raised his hands in the air, and I thought, wow, this is crazy, because it looks like I'm actually in the cockpit of the Falcon. I'm not, but it was just, that's the kind of stuff that Lucasfilm does. That's how much they care about this, and they care about it because of people like you who've been taking your families to see Star Wars movies for over 40 years. I mean, that's a big deal. Yes, they make money off of it. Of course, you have to make the living, but they care about this product, and they care that you care about the product. And they put a lot into this, and I think you're going to see that when you see this film, absolutely. By the way, there is one other story I wanted to tell you about. That guy right there with the white hair, he's kind of a big deal. His name is George Lucas. So this is what happened. I'm on the red carpet, just kind of basking in this incredible experience, and I turn around and I see almost that exact picture. And I looked at my son and I said, "That's George Lucas, that's George Lucas, that's George Lucas." And he goes, "I know. So I thought I'd look, and there's no one between George and I. George, like we're best friends or something. And so I thought, I'm going to go talk to him. I'm going to go talk to George Lucas. I never thought that would ever happen. So I walked up to him, and I reached out, and I put my arm around him, and I patted him on the back. "Hey, Georgie." And I said, "George, thank you so much for all you've done in the Star Wars universe you created. May I grab a quick photo with you?" And he smiles, and he looks me up, and he looks me down, and he says, "Actually, I think I have to keep moving." And he just kept walking. And honestly, he could have said to me, "You're ugly and your mother dresses you funny, you smell weird." I would have felt exactly the same. I don't care. I got to talk to George Lucas. I mean, that was the pinnacle, right? And he later, because we saw the movie in the Dolby Theater, which is a theater where they have the Oscars. So I was in the very, very, very back row, which was fine. Who cares? I was there. And then 5 minutes before the movie starts, everyone stands up and starts cheering. And George walked in. So I got to see this movie for the first time with George, who saw it for the first time. It was just an amazing, amazing experience. And here I think is a photo of him looking at me, and I'm trying to talk to him, saying, "Hey, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to keep moving, buddy. Just going to keep moving. Just keep your hands where I can see you." Okay. So that's really it. If there's no questions, I'm assuming you probably have no questions because you want to see this movie. Am I right? Thank you so much. By the way, if you ever think, I want to hear some Star Wars conversation, I want to think, I want to laugh, Coffee with Kenobi, we're on iTunes, we're everywhere you can listen to podcasts. We come out weekly. We have a great show. We're going to have a show very soon where I interview Eunice, who is Chewbacca. A lot of great stuff, so I'd love for you to listen up, write a comment on iTunes. It would help us a lot. Thank you so much for your attention. Enjoy this wonderful film. Thank you.
Greetings. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
If you were to say to me, what do you love the most about Harry's razors? It would be really easy for me to answer convenience and comfort. When I need to shave, which is every day, I need to make sure that I've got razor blades in the house, that I've got shaving cream, and because of Harry's, not only do I have that, but I have some of the best stuff you can possibly imagine. Harry stands behind the quality of their blades. They know that switching razors is not an easy decision. So they created a trial offer, which is harrys.com/CWK family. Harry's founders are fed up with overpaying for expensive razors with unnecessary features. They know that a great shave comes down to great blades, made with sharp, durable steel that lasts. That's why they bought a factory that's been making some of the highest quality blades in the world for over 95 years. By selling directly to you over the internet, Harry's can offer their blades at a price much lower than the leading brand, just $2 per blade compared to $4 or more. And there's a quality guarantee. If you don't love your shave, let Harry's know within 30 days and they'll give you a full refund. Now you might be wondering, all right, I am totally in, but what are the details of this trial offer? Well, it's a $13 value trial set that comes with everything you need for a close, comfortable shave. A weighted ergonomic handle, 5-blade razor with a lubricating strip and trimmer blade, rich lathering shave gel, and a travel blade cover. And that's all a lot of great stuff that you need, and it's so much cheaper than anything else you'll find anywhere. Listeners of my show can redeem their trial set at harrys.com/CWK family. Make sure you go to harrys.com/CWK family to redeem your offer and let them know I sent you to help support the show. We are back, and we have our news segment, which of course Tom Gross will join us, but we also have, for this segment alone, a very special guest. I'm not even going to introduce him, we're just going to let him talk when the time is appropriate, and we'll see if you recognize the dulcet tones of this particular individual.
That's not me.
That's not him. Although your voice is lovely as well. Yes.
I will start the news.
Look at he's like hiding, pouncing, ready to surprise the airwaves.
He is. I'm so like, excited and anxious about it all at the same time. Well, our first story is George Lucas's vision for episodes 7 through 9 seems to have been revealed in a companion book to James Cameron's Story of Science Fiction series on AMC. In this series, James Cameron interviewed 6 of the biggest names in science fiction, including Guillermo del Toro, Christopher Nolan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ridley Scott, Steven Spielberg, and of course, George Lucas. A portion of the Lucas transcript in the companion book made its way into Twitter for discussion. It states as a quote from George Lucas, "The next 3 Star Wars movies were going to get into the microbiotic world. There's this world of creatures that operate differently than we do. I call them the Wills." Now, Lucas goes on to talk about how the Wills actually control the universe and feed off the Force. And Lucas goes on, or states then, if he still owned the company, he would have made the films and fans would have hated it just like they hated Phantom Menace and everything. The passage ends with, quote, "But at least the whole story from beginning of end to end would have been told."
I think that is very striking. Is there any idea what year he gave these quotes or these transcripts? This is...
Let me take a look at that.
I don't remember seeing it either. I don't mean to put you on the spot because I don't know that it's been revealed, or maybe it hasn't. I just missed it.
I mean, the book came out on May 15th. The companion, but as far as when those interviews were held, I don't have information on that.
Well, the books are usually written 9 months to a year before they're released. So it's fair to say this would have been maybe interviewed around Rogue One time, perhaps.
Maybe, yeah.
Either way, I saw somebody online talking about, oh, geez, Luke Skywalker was going to shrink and be inside somebody's blood cells. But that was just someone being silly, apparently. My initial thoughts on this are, I mean, the Wills, obviously putting the Wills in is great. Mm-hmm. And that happened with Rogue One. But if there's one thing that we've learned about George Lucas, especially at the end of his career in the Clone Wars, he had a lot of new dimensions to the Force that I think are wonderful. You know, look at what happened with the Mortis trilogy, or just different things that happen through the very last couple of series or episodes of Clone Wars with Yoda and him going to Moraband and everything that he did, right? In the Dark Yoda that he faced. That was all from the minor George Lucas. So people seem to forget that when new things to the Force are added, whether it's from George or just in Star Wars anyway, that's been happening since the beginning. I mean, stuff in The Empire Strikes Back was different Force-wise than it was in Star Wars. That's just kind of the way it is. And I think it's more interesting if it's stagnant. Now, that being said, this all became more like, you know, midi-chlorians, the next level. I'm sure people would have had a bit of confusion about that. And it does sound a little bit weird and make it even less spiritual and even more biological. But ultimately, we'll never really know because it didn't actually ever happen.
You know what's crazy? There's not enough cowbell.
That's right. Christopher Walken has joined us.
Thanks. It's great.
Ryder's going to love this. He loves when you do Christopher Walken.
Good, because they didn't have me on the show. I could have blown their minds.
Yes, it's Corey Club, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay! Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So thanks again for giving me an easy segment to put to the beginning of the show after this.
Good.
Tell me, what do you think about this George Lucas thing?
Yeah, this is interesting, right? I mean, always the what if question of what if George had made those films and what if he still had those rights, you know? And it's interesting to see that because I know back when we first started the show, Dan, we were kind of on the cusp of George selling off the films to Disney and Lucasfilm.
Right. It makes it sound so old, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But it's one of those things that as a writer, you already have these ideas in the back of your head. And when you kind of let those go against and let somebody else have that, take control of that, it's a little bit, you die a little bit inside, I think, a little bit. But for him to say this, like you said, that the time frame's a little bit ambiguous. You don't know what kind of mood he's in. There's a lot of factors go into it, I think. But having it come down to a biological standpoint was kind of interesting to me. I mean, he's still exploring that force, right? With all those things we kind of don't understand about Star Wars. It's very mythological, kind of faith-based in a sense. And we see a little more of that in episode 1, it being more of a biology based thing, and I think that's just part of the story that just never got told. I think it's still there. I think it's still being told, like you mentioned, through the Clone Wars, through Rebels even. I mean, I think some of those characters are exploring those pieces. I think that story still needs to be told, I think, too. I think there's still more there in the Force itself, telling a story that interacts with Jedi and Sith and all kinds of different beings. Can
you imagine, though, if this was what we got instead of The Force Awakens? I mean...
Yeah, I mean,
it's like comparing like one sentence to an entire novel, really. I mean, because that's the only difference.
Right. I mean, he didn't elaborate.
I'm glad
to make it. So
I'm glad things happened the way they did. And I want to know more about Lucas's plans for everything, because I think the guy is one of the great creative geniuses of all time. But I'm at peace. It's fun to hear these things, but I'm at peace with how things turned out.
Yeah. I think you always want that stamp of approval from George.
Oh, sure.
You know, it's these new films coming out. They want to have to please him in some way. Obviously, it's still his creative energies that put together. So I think he does. I think he does like the new stuff that's coming out. So I don't think that's all.
Well, when we chatted, he didn't say he didn't like it.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
that's good. Right straight from the source then.
Well, it is time to start talking about our favorite summer topic, and I know you know what it is. It is the San Diego Comic Convention. Hasbro announced this week their Star Wars Black Series exclusives for the convention. The first is a stunning display of Rey on Starkiller Base in a lightsaber duel with Kylo Ren. Rey is on the left of the display, charging in on Ren from a high boulder, giving the symbolic higher ground, and they are split by a reddish fissure of earth splitting. The scene features a backlit scene of black silhouette trees with a water mist feature, all run by 3 AA batteries. The scene will be available at the con and other exclusive online retailers for $109.99. The second exclusive is a Han Solo and Mynock figure set from The Empire Strikes Back. This is a 6-inch set that features, according to Hasbro, premium detail and multiple points of articulation. It includes the Solo figure, the exclusive Mynock creature, and 3 accessories, which are Han's pistol, a gas mask contraption, and some type of club. But to see the pictures and see the accessories, check out the Coffee with Kenobi website.
The pictures, I mean, Hasbro always sends over wonderful pictures. The Rey Kylo one is $109.99. Plus the fact you have to wait in line at Comic-Con. And now the Solo one is $34.99. I can't remember, Tom, or maybe Corey, you know too, but I don't remember if I've said this on the show, but I'm going to Comic-Con this year. Have I announced that?
Wow. That's an announcement. I didn't know that.
I don't recall you saying that. So yeah,
Coffee with Kenobi will be at San Diego Comic-Con. I mean, now we've had amazing representatives there before. Troy Metzler did it for us a few times. And of course, Mediocre Jedi done it. Mike Audette has done it for us. But now I will be there too. I'm very excited about this, and I will certainly be scoping these things out. And I know that I'm going to be meeting up with some Hasbro representatives early on in the con anyway, so I'll try to get an extra close sneak peek at these things as I can. And honestly, I really like the Mynock one. I just always like that scene anyway. The Kylo one, I don't really like as well. I mean, I just don't like how he. I don't know. Do you see the picture, guys? I mean, it's a beautiful looking, but Rey looks really stunning, and Kylo looks sort of awkward.
I noticed though in the photos that they do change. He can change his posture. I mean, they're figures, it does look like that. Yeah, I agree. The main picture, he really seems kind of awkward and kind of leaning back, but I don't know. But yeah, Rey is so
not a
stunning.
good representative of probably what the actual figure looks like. But yeah, Rey looks awesome, like a Valkyrie or something.
Interesting.
That one, when I saw that, I was like, man, that would be a cool one to have in the collection. I know some of the exclusives, they're really cool, but maybe not logistically possible, or to have everything. But man, that one with Rey is pretty phenomenal in my eyes. Well, last weekend at EA Play in Los Angeles, Electronic Arts and developer Respawn Entertainment revealed the name and release timeframe of the newest Star Wars game that's been announced. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order will be a single-player action-adventure game that takes place after the events of Revenge of the Sith. Respawn's Vince Zampella confirmed that Respawn is collaborating closely with Lucasfilm in the creation of the game, and the game's release time frame is the 2019 holiday season. In other news from EA Play, Battlefront developers have listened to the requests of Battlefront 2 fans and announced that they will release more Clone War era content starting this fall. Hero characters include Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Count Dooku, and General Grievous, all as playable characters. Also, the location of the first battle of the Clone Wars, Geonosis, will become a setting of Battlefront 2. And finally, this July, a new hero and villain mode with starfighters will come to Battlefront 2, and you know what that means. Dog fights in space.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. It's not like the Muppets.
I know. I thought about that as I was reading it.
The first one, I'm a little hazy on the first one, so forgive me if you've already sort of explained it. But the first one was like a newer video game. Like it's not Battlefront related; it's a newer thing.
New, yes, a new game.
And who's releasing this?
This will be through Electronic Arts, but the developer is Respawn Entertainment. Now, I can't tell you what else they've made just off the top of my head. But the title of it is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Huh. And I'm sure it'll be canonically linked. I mean, everything video game is. But to have Nick Deco back on to kind of share his insights on that. I don't know. I mean, as I've said before, I haven't really played a lot of Star Wars video games recently. I know, Corey, your family's played a lot of the newer Battlefront. What do you think about this?
What's cool about this is when the first Battlefront first came out, we were excited for it, and they had some different what do you call download packs you can get in and DLC packs and play more characters. And one of the characters that my son really wanted to be was General Grievous. So he was like hoping this was going to happen. So this has come to fruition. Apparently, he's very excited. It's cool to have them expand on the prequel era and that for those characters and seeing that expand like that. I think also for the new game. I mean, this is kind of new territory for them. I think they had a lot of success with the single-player missions on the new Battlefront 2, as you play as Iden Verso, and I think that was a really cool way to do that and explore that new character. And hopefully, this kind of expands that out in Jedi Fallen Empire or Fallen something. But it sounds like they're going for some new territory. I think maybe some new characters. I think that's really cool. I'm all for it.
That's fun. Yeah, and then of course putting more solo in is pretty neat too. So that's cool. There's some fun stuff. We didn't even talk about that. Also at Comic-Con, they're going to have that 3-pack of Dr. Aphra and
I saw that. Yeah,
and BT and 000, which I'm a big fan of those characters. So that actually, if there was only one thing I would get, it would be that one.
No, those are the 3 3/4 inch, right?
I think so. Yeah, okay. I think so. Cool. Yeah, that'll be fun. Well, hey Tom, thanks so much. Well, let's go ahead and take our break, and then when we come back, as promised at the top of the show, I recently showed Mason The Empire Strikes Back for the first time, so I will replay our immediate interview after we watch that together. It is a ton of fun. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
Coffee, tea, or me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's Coffee with Kenobi.
One Nation Coffee is the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi. 4 lifelong friends had this dream that has grown into some of the best coffee you are ever going to have. I promise you. I love it. It's my favorite. When I travel, I miss One Nation Coffee because I can't get it when I'm somewhere else. But hopefully someday that'll change. These guys are so awesome, and this coffee is so good that once this thing catches on, oh my goodness, it's going to change the way you drink coffee or even think about coffee. Be sure to go to www.onenationcoffee.com to order the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi today. Are you deciding, you know what, I still need to get that summer vacation going. I've got a little bit of time. Well, Mouse Fan Travel has you covered. In fact, they're perfect for that. They have signature service and expert advice to help clients maximize their vacation time and dollar. They help your family enjoy everything the Disney theme parks and the cruise lines have to offer. They help you plan every detail, and they share invaluable tips to help make the most of all your family's dreams with Disney come true. Check out www.mousefantravel.com today and get your Walt Disney World or Disneyland vacation started off the right way. And now my son Mason has seen my very favorite Star Wars movie, The Empire Strikes Back. You heard when he saw Star Wars A New Hope, the original movie, and how much fun we had with that, and we asked a lot of questions and got a lot of great answers. So Mason, welcome back to Coffee with Kenobi. Are you happy to be back on the show?
Yes.
Tell me what you thought about The Empire Strikes Back.
It was so cool.
What did you like about it?
Everything.
Tell me what happened in the movie, because I can't remember. Tell me about the movie. Tell me what surprised you the most.
Darth Vader jumping out at the second time.
At the end, and you even said, "Ooh, that was scary a little."
Yeah.
What did you think about the AT-ATs?
They were cool.
What did you like about them?
I like it, like how the things, while they go blast, it go up and down, up and down.
And how did they defeat the AT-ATs?
They tied the legs together.
And they went.
And they fell down and they crashed and they fell apart.
That's right. So what happens with the Tauntauns and the Wampa? Because I know you were excited about that. The Wampa? What happened with the Wampa?
He got a broken arm.
How did he get a broken arm?
Luke used a lightsaber.
How was Luke with the Force in this movie?
Good.
You were really smart when we were watching it, and you knew about what happened when Luke faced Darth Vader that first time, but it was just kind of a robot Darth Vader. How come that mask looked like Luke?
Because he was almost a bad guy, but he wasn't.
Yeah, why was Luke almost a bad guy?
Because he wasn't listening.
Yeah, and he wasn't very patient, was he?
Yeah.
So why do you think that Yoda told Luke not to bring his weapons into that cave? It's kind of tricky, isn't it? We'll have to think about that and maybe talk about it another time. So what surprised you the most about what Darth Vader... Tell me about what happened when Darth Vader told Luke the big secret. What did you say to me?
I did not know that.
But the first thing you said when he said, "No, I am your father," you looked at me and what did you say?
That is not true.
And you know what? That is exactly the reaction I had when I was a little boy and I saw this movie in the theater for the very first time. I thought, no, Darth Vader is lying. And you thought the same thing too. And we kept this a secret your whole life. You didn't even know that Darth Vader was Luke's father, did you?
Yeah, you're right.
And then what you asked me about when he was Luke's father. Remember what you asked me? If it was before... Remember he says it's before he was Darth Vader?
Before he was Darth Vader, he was Luke's father.
Yeah. So why do you think he told Luke?
I don't know.
You don't know? What happened with Han Solo?
He got frozen.
Did that make you sad?
No.
How come?
I knew he was going to get out in the next movie.
How did you know that?
Because you told me.
Oh, because we read that golden book together. Yeah. Were you surprised, though, that they didn't save him at the end of the movie?
Yeah.
Why were you surprised?
I don't know.
Because remember you said to me, Daddy, you told me the good guys always win. So did the good guys win in this?
Yes.
Tell me how.
They got the Vader.
And what happened? Luke escaped. Remember when you said to me, is Luke going to join Darth Vader? What did Luke do?
He didn't.
What did he choose to do instead of joining Darth Vader?
Doing the good side.
Yeah, and how did he escape from Darth Vader in that scene?
He'd go down through the bottom of Cloud City.
Yeah, he jumped in that big thing. Were you surprised at how far he dropped?
Yes.
What do you think you would have done if you jumped?
I would be by Darth Vader. I'll see you later.
What did you think of Yoda?
He was pretty cool.
Yeah, what did you like about him?
I liked it, how he taught, and lots of stuff about him.
And he was pretty good with the Force, wasn't he? What did he do with the Force?
He moved the whole X-Wing.
Right out of the swamp. Would you want to live on Hoth or Dagobah?
Dingabab.
You'd want to live on a swampy planet?
I won't live where Yoda is.
Oh, just like another part. Maybe there's better real estate. Yeah. Then what do you think of Cloud City? And what do you think of Lando?
He's pretty cool too.
Yeah. Were you mad that he betrayed Han Solo and he gave him to Darth Vader?
But then he just changed back.
Yeah.
Because he knew what Darth Vader was a bad guy.
Yeah. And he saved him. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Yeah. Why do you think he listened to Darth Vader the first time?
I don't know.
Darth Vader's probably pretty tricky, I would think. So let me ask you this question. I don't know what you're going to say. Who do you like better, Luke Skywalker or Han Solo?
Luke.
Yeah? Do you think Han Solo's pretty cool?
Yeah, but not better than Luke.
I bet I know why you like Luke better.
Why?
Because of the Force and Jedi Knight.
Oh, yeah.
But Han Solo is pretty cool.
But no Force.
No Force. But he's pretty cool, and he's got the Millennium Falcon and Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Which ship do you wish you had if you were in Star Wars?
The Death Star.
You wish you had the Death Star? Why?
Well, the bad guys would be in a different ship, though.
Yeah, I know, but you like the Death Star better than the Falcon?
No.
No. The Death Star is cool, but it wasn't in this movie. Anything else you want to say about the movie?
Why isn't there a bigger Death Star in this movie?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. What do you think? Maybe they didn't have time to build it, or what do you think?
They didn't have the direction.
Where do you think the directions went?
In R2-D2.
Oh, the Death Star plans. Yeah, that's right. So what do you think will happen in Return of the Jedi?
I don't know. I know one part they're going to save Han Solo.
I hope so. How do you think they'll save him?
I don't know.
Remember you asked me who is Darth Vader's boss? Who is Darth Vader's boss?
The Emperor.
And then who is Jabba the Hutt's boss?
Jabba.
Yeah. Are you surprised that Jabba doesn't have a boss?
Yeah.
So what did you think of that scene when Darth Vader, when they put that helmet down on him and his head was all white? What did you think of that?
I didn't thought, who is that? Then I knew it was Darth Vader.
Yeah. Why do you think his head looked like that?
Because he got owie.
Yeah. I think he definitely has an owie for sure. Why do you think he's not nice? Because he's definitely a bad guy.
Yeah, I don't know why he's not nice.
What color is his lightsaber?
Red.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember. Is there anything else you want to say? Do you like Princess Leia?
Yes.
What do you think she learned in this movie?
I don't know.
No. Who do you think that Princess Leia likes? Luke or Han?
Luke.
Yeah? You think she likes Luke better than Han?
Yes.
What? But she looked like she was pretty sad. She told Han Solo that she loved him. Remember right before he was frozen, she said, "I love you"?
Oh, yeah.
And what did Han Solo say?
I don't know. I forget.
He said, "I know." Why do you think he said, "I know" instead of "I love you" too?
I don't know.
It's kind of weird, isn't it? Yeah.
Pretty weird.
You remember when they gave each other a smooch? Why do you think that they gave each other a smooch?
I don't know.
You asked me, and I said, I think it's because he likes her.
No, I do not remember that.
Oh, I do. Okay, well, Mason, thanks for coming back on the show.
Uh-huh. You're welcome.
Is there anything else you want to say on the show about The Empire Strikes Back or about Star Wars?
No.
No. Who's your favorite Star Wars character in all the movies you've seen?
I actually don't know that yet.
Before, I think you told me Darth Vader. Is he still your favorite character?
No.
No. Who would you say is if it's not Darth Vader anymore?
I don't know who's my favorite.
You can have lots of favorites. Tell me all your favorites.
I like Luke, Han Solo, Lando, Daddy. That's not Darth.
But still, I think that works.
And I still like Stormtroopers.
Yeah, they weren't into too much, were they? You saw Snow Troopers, though. We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
They were cool.
Yeah.
Oh, Boba Fett.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that, but you said it.
What do you think of Boba Fett?
He was pretty cool, too.
Yeah. He's got a cool ship.
Yeah.
Well, Mason, thanks so much. Will you come back on the show after you see Return of the Jedi?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, buddy.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are the podcast you're looking for. This is it.
Before we get to email, I want to thank our CWK sponsors, One Nation Coffee, Harry's Razors, and Mouse Fan Travel. Please support them the way they support our podcast, and remember to listen to new and archive shows of Coffee with Kenobi wherever you listen to podcasts, including iTunes, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, Spreaker, Overcast, Blog Talk Radio, Player FM, and our website, www.coffeewithkenobi.com, wherever you enjoy listening to your favorite shows. And if you listen to this show through iTunes, please leave us a review. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, and Tumblr, and we'd love for you to check us out there. Also, be sure to listen to our CWK family of shows, including Legends Library, Rebels Reactions, Comics with Kenobi, and Lattes with Leia. Please leave a review for each of their shows as well, and be sure to subscribe to each of them individually, as they all have their own feeds now. Thank you so much to everybody for this awesome conversation about Solo and all the good things that have been going on show number 129. Din and Darth Taxus, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Where can listeners find each of you? Taxus, let's start with you, and then Din has a pretty cool announcement that he's going to share with us. Taxus, go right ahead.
Well, you can find me lurking about in the RetroZap Network on Starship Sabers and Scoundrels with Dennis Keithley and Jay Krebs. It's a bi-weekly podcast that, you know, we tackle news, we tackle talk, and we try to have some fun with some maybe good and sometimes really failed bits. So go check it out, you know. It's going pretty strong. And other than that, over on the Assembly Geeks Network, I am the MC of The Geek Supreme with Scott Murray, Jeff McGee, and the incomparable Regina Davis. And that is more of a game show style where each week one of the three is crowned the Geek Supreme. And Dan recently lent his vocal talents to us in the form of a villain for a fun, or at least I'm told it was fun, role-playing game style episode where we had somebody win a prize package of Solo gear who's called the Lucky Listener. So go check that out because you did really good, man. I'm saying you struck fear into my heart when I heard your voice.
I had so much fun doing that. I really thank you for letting me be a part of that. I've heard a lot of wonderful things. That Scott's always done a quality podcast. He's always been one of my favorite people. And that show's always been great, and you've added it and made it even stronger. I mean, you're a highlight to listen to, my friend.
Appreciate it, because I'm a nervous wreck leading up to it, because I'm like, oh, I've got nothing. They're going to figure out I'm a fraud. Oh, okay, we're rolling.
You hide it well. Fake it till you make it, right?
That's right.
So, Din, you, of course, I want to know where people can find you, but before that, you've got something really, really awesome and exciting that you're going to share with us. I'm so excited to share this with our audience.
Yeah, I'm really excited too. First off here, Darth Taxus, I'm looking at your webpage. So I've never read Han Solo and the Lost Legacy. So you have an episode on that? And
oh, yes.
That'll help me understand the skull in Solo?
Yes. Actually,
okay,
all three
cool.
of those Brian Daly books we talked about in our Road to Solo. And I feel like Daly captured Han Solo in those books. I haven't read the like. I mean, and I'm just being honest. I think he captured who A New Hope Han Solo was back then. So yeah, go back and give it a listen. You know,
great. That'll be my intro into that world. Cool. Okay, so the announcement is that we have just finished a remix of Desert Planet, which is a sort of urban club / rock genre mashup of the song, and it features singing and rapping on the song, up-and-coming sort of Canadian First Nations singer, hip-hop artist star named Kelly Fraser, and she was nominated for a Juno this year, which is the Canadian Grammys. And really excited to debut that here on Coffee with Kenobi.
Your footprints on the desert plain have blown away, only you remain. I walk with you on the shifting sands, we're nowhere near where we began.
Then go ahead and let us know where people can get a hold of this album.
July 27th, it will be released everywhere online, so Spotify, iTunes. The album will be up on YouTube with this mix, Desert Planet, the Steel and Gold mix featuring Kelly Frazier will be a bonus track, and that's at f105music.com. And then our SoundCloud, our Facebook, our Twitter handle is all also f105music.com.
Fantastic. We will have links to all those things in the show notes. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening to and supporting Coffee with Kenobi, and of course for contributing to our Star Wars conversation. We will be back next week with 2 new co-hosts and more positive, spoiler-free conversation. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.